All right, welcome. Today, we are going to dive into a puzzle that might just change the way you look at data forever. We're going to see how one single data set can give us three completely different but equally correct answers. So how is that even possible? Well, let's get into it.
Now, everything we're about to explore today comes from a fantastic book called From Data to Insights, a beginner's guide to cross-tabulation analysis. We've built this entire explainer around its core ideas, and if you want to go deeper, you can find the full source right at the URL on your screen.
So let's start with a thought that might, shake things up a bit. What if I told you that every statistically significant result you've ever put your trust in could be totally misleading? Not because the math was wrong, but because the analyst might have been using the completely wrong tool for the job. That's the mystery we're unpacking today.
Okay, section 1. One data set, three answers. Let's see how this plays out in the real world. For our case study, we're using a story you probably know really well, the Titanic. We're going to zero in on one of the most famous relationships from that disaster, the connection between a passenger's gender and their chance of survival.
And this table right here, this is our single source of truth. Every single number we're about to look at comes directly from this simple cross-tabulation. It shows the raw counts of men and women who survived or died. Keep your eyes on this table because it holds the key to this whole puzzle.
Okay, first up, we're going to use a measure called Goodman-Kruskal's Lambda. Now, this tool is specifically designed to tell us how well knowing one thing, in this case gender, helps us predict the other thing, survival. And based on these numbers, we get a result of 0.42. Okay, let's hang on to that one. Next, we use a totally different tool on the exact same data, Cramer's V. This one measures the overall strength of the association. Think of it like a volume knob. How loud is the signal connecting gender and survival? Using this tool on this table, we get 0.53. A different number. And for our final test, let's calculate the odds ratio. Now, this tool is different. It ignores the totals and focuses only on these four cells to make a direct comparison. It asks a really specific question. How many times more likely was one group to survive than the other? And the answer is a massive 11.31.
So let's just stop and think about that. We've got 0.42, 0.53, and a huge 11.31. All of them came from the very same table, looking at the exact same relationship. So how is that possible? Are the numbers broken? Is one of them just plain wrong?
So which one is the right number? The answer is they all are, because they're not answering this same question. They're answering three totally different questions.
This is where it all clicks. See, Cramer's V, that gave us 0.53. It's all about strength. It answers, how strong is the overall link between gender and survival? But Lambda, our 0.42, it's about prediction. It asks, how much better can I guess who survived if I know their gender? Strength versus prediction, two completely different goals.
And what about that gigantic number, 11.31? Well, that's the odds ratio, and it's answering a very specific and I think very powerful question of comparison. How many times more likely is one group to have a certain outcome than another? It's not about vague strength or prediction, it's a head-to-head comparison.
And that's exactly why the odds ratio is so incredible. That number, 11.31, translates directly into a sentence anyone can understand. It tells a powerful story. It shows that when you pick the right tool, you get an insight that's immediate and impactful in a way that a number like 0.53 just can't be.
And believe me, this is not just some quirky academic exercise. In the real world, picking the wrong statistical measure can have seriously high stakes. Just think about it for a second. In a medical study, a researcher finds a strong link using Cramer's V. But maybe the odds ratio shows the drug's actual effect is so tiny it's clinically meaningless. In business, you might find a predictive model with Lambda that looks great, but it has zero actual power to forecast next quarter's sales. And in a courtroom, misrepresenting the evidence with the wrong statistic could literally change someone's life.
This really gets to the heart of what separates an amateur from a professional. It's knowing that you have a whole toolkit, not just one hammer.
So many of us, we learn the basic chi-squared test in Stats 101, we get that significant p-value, and we think, job done. But an expert knows that's just the first step. That just tells you something is there. The real insight, the story, comes from the measures of association that you use next. And that toolkit is huge. You've got phi coefficients, contingency coefficients, Yule's Q, and a bunch of others. But here's the most critical part. Every single one has a specific job, its own unique strengths, and, this is key, its own hidden traps and devastating weaknesses. If you use the wrong one, you can get a result that looks impressive but is actually just statistical garbage.
Which brings us to the final, and honestly, the most important takeaway from all of this. It all boils down to one simple thing.
So, the next time you see a statistically significant finding, don't just ask if there's a relationship. You need to ask a much better question. Ask, what type of relationship are we talking about? Are we interested in the overall strength? Are we trying to build a predictive model? Or are we trying to compare the likelihood between two groups? Because the answer you get depends entirely on the question you ask. And choosing the right question and the right tool to answer it, that's what turns raw data into real insight.